Now guys, let's go to, you guys can all get basketball and do a different rings. Let's just go to some shot build-up. So I'll talk about a couple shooting things here. And so the first thing, guys, let's just go one-hand shooting. So and we do this, I would say we do this almost every practice. You know, there might be a time when we come in and it's a practice where we're just getting ready for a game. We think the form is so important how you shoot the ball that doing this is absolutely essential. So we will come out here, you can see these guys are doing a lot of things that we really preach, okay? See Bobby shoot there and he ends up on his toes, okay? So that emphasizes a couple things. One, when you're shooting, you want to be moving forward. You never want to be on your heels, okay? So you would never want to shoot, okay, that pulls your head back, pulls your balance back. You want to be up on your toes, moving forward just a little bit, okay? And that's a little important. You can see these guys don't take the ball, like they don't start the ball on this knee, or they don't start it out here or anything like that. The ball stays in what we call the shooter's pocket. To me, the shooter's pocket is a line from if you're right-handed, your right toe to your right knee, your right hip, up to your right shoulder. The ball, your hand, your elbow, never leave that shooter's pocket, okay? So that's what these guys are working on. And the last thing you can see is the follow-through. All these guys are doing a great job. Okay, holding their follow-through up in the air while they're up on their toes until the ball bounces. Okay? We really emphasize that we want the follow-through held exaggerated until the ball bounces on the floor. The follow-through is such an important part. It's funny how little things can correct big shooting problems. Okay, you know, sometimes when guys are struggling, we'll just talk about follow-through. And then talking about follow-through, we actually think about the index finger, okay, and talk about that index finger has to go over the front of the rim. So you can imagine it going over the front of the rim. So now guys, let's go to two-hand shooting. Okay, let's go to shoot through the window. So another simple drill that we then build to, so we call this shot build up. So we go to the one-hand shooting. One more thing I should say about shot building with one-hand shooting. Well, make sure that you have the ball off the palm of your hands. All good things in basketball, ball handling, passing, shooting, come from the fingertips. So if I should be holding the ball. Yeah, can you throw me a basketball? So, and these guys are down there, so I'm not sure that you have a great view of this, but the ball on your hand like this will always come off like a palm ball or a knuckle ball. You can't control it as well. You should be able to see that much space. You can see that my fingertips are on the ball. I can actually, see you between my hand. That's how we talk about with the younger kids. So, you want that ball on your fingertips. You want space between your hand and the basketball. Now, that shoot through the window concept that you heard me just talk about with these guys, what we talk about is, and sometimes this is not as realistic for young players, and that's okay, but we talk about the idea that we want to be able, when the ball goes up, so it stays in the shooter's pocket, it does not come in front of the face, okay, and as it goes up, if I have a good release point, I'm shooting through the window created by my arms, okay, so if you can see how I'm looking at the rim right now. Now, that's not a pause. Okay, it's not like I get here and pause and then shoot it, okay? It's a smooth motion. I don't want to shoot because with my luck it'll bounce over and hit the camera, but it's a smooth motion up through, okay, and then hold my follow. And you guys see these guys doing a good job of that. They're also doing a great job with their feet, okay? The feet are aligned. You want to make sure, and these older guys, won't come up, but the worst thing for young shooters, the worst habit, the hardest habit to break, the biggest thing that that you can try and discourage them from doing is this. If they have trouble getting the ball to the rim, if they use their hip to lunge it up, that's such a bad habit. That's such a bad habit. And so I've gone back and forth on what size basketball should be used. I know some people say just use the regular ball. That's what they're going to be using. You develop for a feel for it. Somewhere I see some merit for that. I know this. If you have players that can't get the ball to the rim without doing that, you've got to find other ways for them to work on that motion. Okay, that motion that we're talking about down here. So guys, hold the ball for 1 second. So what I'd like you guys to do, don't shoot to the rim. This is something I know that often as rec coaches you probably work with limited gym space. So what I'd like you guys to do is just work on form shooting, okay, without shooting for the rim. So now this has two functions, okay? Number one, so they're just going to up on your toes, so you follow through. Okay, you can see that, so they're not shooting to the rim now, but they're still working on shooting. So I think there's two functions here. One, if you don't have enough rims for everybody who's shooting at a given time, you'll solve that problem. Two, if you have really young players that can't get the ball to the rim, and if you don't have an option, in some of the elementaries, the rim's lower, and that seems to be a good thing. Like, listen, it's way better to have kids shooting at a 6-foot rim than to have them hoisting the ball like that, okay? That is such a hard habit to break. But if you don't have the option of lowering the rim, you don't have the option of maybe intermediate balls that can help them work on form. And this is a great drill for that because it doesn't, it focuses on the process as opposed to results. The process of shooting the ball correctly at this age is much more important than the result. Yes?
You work on weekend or just all on it?
Well, for shooting basketball, hold the ball for 1 second, guys. We work on layups, we work on shooting layups left-handed. We always, in terms of just shooting, now this was real close to work on form, and you'll see we'll move it out to about 15 feet. But we never work on shooting like a jumper with our left hand if we're right-handed. And that's actually, I think that's actually a pretty good point to make. I always figure if any of these guys can shoot 100% right-handed from like 15 feet, then we'll start working on left-handed from 15 feet. But we haven't gotten there yet. So, all right, so the next one, guys, let's start with, it's not perfect with one enough guys, but give me 2 guys on the toe, 2 guys on the arm, these 2 basketballs. Let's just do baseline shooting. Okay, obviously you don't have to do it quick. You don't have to go 100% here, guys. Okay, so this is a very simple drill we do for shooting. It works on layups, and then it works on short jumpers, and then it works on, you can extend it as far as you want, really. So start with layups. Okay, so Bobby's going to cut across. Okay, you can see he's working on layups. Now, normally we'll have like 8 guys in this drill, 8 to 10 guys will do it for a minute. Now, I thought one of the reasons I put this in, I thought it was something that however limited your basket space might be, it's always a drill you can do. Okay, so you can see these guys are going back and forth. Right, so the next thing we'll do, we talk about the one-footed layups that you're seeing there, and I'm going to go over that. We're going to do a segment on layups. But we also talk about power layups. Now, I started the power layups, or closed door layups, we call these. So now they're going off 2 feet. Now, we really talk about, and I'll make this point later. The first point on layups that you want to master is the idea of string from elbow to corresponding knee and being able to make a layup with proper form. And it's funny though, as these guys get higher up, we rarely want them to shoot a one-footed layup in a half-court offensive situation in a game. And that's why we go through work on this. We call these power layups or closed door layups. The idea of closed door is, guys, you can hold up for a second. Stay where you are because we're going to go to jumpers in a second here. The idea of closed door is, if I go up off 1 foot and there's somebody who's more athletic than me or just bigger than me, okay, and I go up off 1 foot and I open it up, all he's got to do is attack the ball, okay? So we talk about closing the door. Closing the door means getting my shoulders parallel to the backboard. So now when I go up, I'm moving towards him. He's got to come through my shoulders. He's most likely got to foul me because I'm protecting the ball with my entire body. And I've got a chance of getting fouled, a chance of making the shot because I'm protecting the ball, possibly a chance at a three-point play. So that's why we work on both things. And I'll show you some other drills we use later on in the segment to work on that. So those are close to the left. So anyway, so we'll start with layups and then just really work on fundamentals. Now let's do short bank shots. So you can see Kel now will come across and he'll shoot just outside the block here. A couple things we'll emphasize. They're doing a reasonable job catching the ball low. They're doing a reasonable job holding their follow through. So we're trying to emphasize those same fundamentals that we just worked on in the much slower shot build-up section. We talk about the idea that every shooting drill is a passing drill as well, so there should be good, light passes. Now, the reason we're shooting bank shots here, number one, I do think it's an easier shot when you're close to the rim, but I also think that there's a very important function to bank shots, and that is it makes you work on proper arc. So we always talk to these guys on a good bank shot, the ball actually should kiss off the backboard when it's already on the way down.
okay? And so we're working on short shots that we could obviously get in the game. We're working on how to shoot those shots, but we're also working on arc that's going to help us when we extend out further, okay? So you can see the pattern there. You just get your shot, you get your own rebound, go to the opposite line. Hold up, guys. Okay? And then get ready to make the next pass. And again, you know, you can do this with, I would say, up to 10, even 12 kids, something like that. I mean, we'll have our entire varsity team on one end, our entire JV team on the other doing this. All right, so now let's extend out to the elbow. Go ahead, go. So now, one thing we always talk about, okay, we think that in terms of shooting, you know, anytime you're working on a shooting drill, you're probably working on cutting as well. So I don't want guys to round off their cut. Basketball games should be played in straight lines. So when they come out here, you see, no, they're a pretty good job. He comes out straight up that line, and he goes behind the other man. So a little bit off kilter there, okay? To go in two straight lines. So a straight line up and a straight line over. We always talk in shooting drills about straight line cuts. If you're going in a circular fashion, rounding off and stuff, that's not for as hard for the gym. Okay, now another thing you see here, we talk about inside pivots. You're going to see when Bobby comes across here, it's going to be left, right, okay? That's an inside pivot because his left foot is his inside foot. He can go left, right there. Now Bobby will go right, left. And you can see that the last step is with the left foot. So your pivot foot, the reason it's an inside pivot, your pivot foot becomes the inside foot, the foot closer to the middle of the floor, okay? Some coaches teach hop stop, nothing wrong with that. I don't think either one of these is right or wrong. This just happens to be what we teach. We teach it because we think in our motion offense at the varsity level, we get a lot of chances with guys coming off screens, getting into that balanced position where they can shoot or drive out of that. And also, again, I don't think hop stops are wrong. So a hop stop would be, as I'm coming around, you guys can hold up, guys. Hold up, guys. As I'm coming around here, okay, I hop into my shot off 2 feet. Again, I don't think it's wrong. I just think it's easier to get balance. I think especially probably for young players, it's easier to get balance when you go with that 1-2, we call that 1-2 steps or inside pivots, where your footwork is driving you into a balanced position. Whereas if I hop stop, okay, that's taking me in this direction and I got to collect myself before I shoot. I do think your release can be quicker with a hop stop. I think it's a little bit harder to be accurate. That's why we believe in inside pivots and why it's what we teach. Let's just, guys, real quick demonstrate hawk drill. I know we don't have enough guys to do it, but we can give them the principle of these. So on this drill, this is a drill we use a lot of drills that you can put your entire team into. They're going to come across here, right straight across the foul line. We'll actually, for the purposes here, we'll start with backboard, which we work on a lot, okay, and then we'll go to jumpers. So we use this, we talk all the time here, we'll talk more about it later, about straight line fills, okay, so same concept I was talking about in terms of not circling off or rounding off your cut. You go across in a straight line, you would be imagining reading the defender. If he were denying this, and the defender denying would be like this, trying to not let the ball get there, okay, not let the ball get to the top. We talk about planting hard on this top foot and becoming explosive going backboard. When I go backboard, I go to the back side of the rim, I finish off 2 feet, okay? So guys, let's do that. I'm not sure how well this is going to work because, normally we do this like with 8 guys and 4 basketballs. Well, let's give it a shot. So you can see Kelvin doing a close cut. He comes to cutter. Kelvin gets the ball to the right. And again, same thing. You're always getting the basketball. The next guy's line. You really want to focus on planting that foot and exploding that foot. So in the next segment, we do a lot of things out of this drill. The next segment that we work on in a very simple fashion would be now the defender's sagging. So now I'm going to plant on the inside foot. Again, I'm low. I'm going to come out. I'm going to catch. Okay. I'm going to look for a shot. Okay. Same thing. You're on rebound with the opposite line. Here we go, guys. We're still working on the inside pivots. Still working on that 1-2 footwork.
again, this is something I think you can do with, you know, your entire team. The big point, besides the fundamental part, would be you just have to, especially with young players, I've done this with young players, you have to keep reminding them that they're getting their own rebound, taking themselves and the basketball the opposite side. Own rebound, themselves and the basketball the opposite side. Again, it's a shooting drill and the passing drill, and again, you want to focus on all the fundamentals that we use in our shot drill. Hold up, guys, hold up. Okay, so those are some shooting drills that we use. Now, next one, let's get into some. Yeah, we're about on time. Let's get into some ball handling drills. And I did, as I said, I did print off a sheet that has these here. Guys, why don't we come down here where we can kind of be right in front of the camera. All right, so let's have two guys going on any particular drill. Yeah. You know, that's a good question. The question is, where do we talk about feet with young kids shooting? Can I see the ball here? So for years now, you know, listen, you guys have probably all heard the term beef, okay? Or many of you heard the term beef. Beef is balance, eyes, elbow, follow through. It's a good guideline. I've always thought it's too vague. You know, it's not a bad starting point. So, you know, the things I really focus on, you know, I focus on that shooter's pocket idea. You know, the ball doesn't come out of toe to knee to hip to shoulder. I think that's really important. I think if kids want to bring the ball across here, that creates inconsistencies. I focus on that shoot through the window idea. You know, here's another thing. I was just reading something about this that I thought was really interesting. It actually was a criticism of beef. It was forest shooting. If you want to YouTube, F-O-R-E-S-T. If you want to YouTube that, there's an interesting thing. And they were pretty critical of beef, even, you know, kind of the same point that I would have made before, that it's too vague. But one of the things they talked about was that it's not realistic to lock your eyes on any, you know, I think when I think about this as a shooter, like I don't lock my, I look at the rim in general, but I don't lock my eyes on any one target. Ian, are you able to lock? Ian's a good shooter, that's why I asked him. Like, don't you kind of just look at the rim as a whole? And what this was done by people that studied the NBA, and they said that the best shooters look at the rim, but that actually focusing on one spot tenses your shoulders and neck, and that's really bad. You want to have looseness in your entire upper body when you shoot. And so that I thought that was a really interesting point. You know, so as much as we're talking about eyes, and eyes are important, I don't think that locking your eyes on one target is all that important. You know, so the other question then was feet. So, you know, I'm kind of addressing the things I believe in order in terms of, you know, you got to have the ball in that line. I do think you got to be, you know, moving forward a little bit. Like, I think, you know, you want your head over your toes and the balls of your feet as opposed to back over your heels. I think that's really important. I think that creates really inconsistent shooting if you allow yourself to be on your heels. Pulls your head back if you're on your heels, and you can see that movement in my head. How am I going to be consistent if my head moves in that fashion? Now, in terms of feet, you know, for years I've been teaching, you know, and I actually, with young guys, I talk a lot about 10 toes facing the rim. So we talk about those 1-2 pivots. Okay, 1-2, and I'm trying to get 10 toes facing the rim. If I'm going this way, same thing. Pivot to get 1-2, 10 toes facing the rim. It was, and I think that's an okay thing to say, like to talk about getting 10 toes towards the rim. It was really interesting though, and Ian, you do this. Did you watch that YouTube? Of course you did. Of course you did. But talked about Steph Curry and his feet when he shoots. And Steph Curry's the best shooter in the NBA, I think. When he shoots, his feet are not 10 toes towards the rim. They're offset just a little bit, so that there may be at, like if we're looking at a clock, there may be at 10 o'clock. So I think it would be important, number one, you don't want them straight across, okay? I think that is really important. If you get them straight across, then you run into that hoist motion, which is not good. If a kid wanted to, so I mean, you know, this is probably what I would teach, you know, toes towards the rim with your weak foot. I'm right-handed, so my left foot, those toes about even with the ball of my feet. Now, if somebody had their toes with not 10 toes towards the rim, or like Austin Yetter is another of our really good shooters. He tends to shoot with his back foot open even a little bit more.
I don't think I would worry too much about that, you know? I think that if you're, as long as your toes are kind of facing into your shot, you know, that way if you're right-handed, this way if you're left-handed, I think that's okay, okay?